morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good morning, sun. Good morning, sun.
Buenos dias, Senor Johnston. Let's clean up some technical configuration issues here. I think we are kind of live. Let's just do a little sound check here. Yes, we are good. So apparently Twitter X is having some API issues, but I believe I have circumvented them, overcome them, and I'm being reminded to guard my privacy and abide by community guidelines. Yes, sir. Okay. Holy cow. I am absolutely exhausted. I guess it's the good exhausted, if one could say that. Okay, let me pay attention here. Ask a question, comment, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, X, whatever it's called. Come on in. This is Herr Peter Steinberger. Peter Steinberger. He is the developer who has invented Claudis, nay Claudebot, Moltbot, and now OpenClaw due to various naming challenges. And he is the creator of the OpenClaw. Buenos dias, Senor Brad, that Brad knows very well. So OpenClaw is an AI space lobster, as he says, that has, it's a harness originally for Claude LLM, Claude agent, whatever you want to call it. And it's an AI personal assistant. And basically, my impression is what makes it different is he just basically removed all the rules, removed all the restrictions, unleashed the thing, and let it do anything. So you want it to check your calendar? Cool. Give it your login. It's going to check your calendar, your email. It's going to do social media posts. It's going to do marketing content for you. It's going to take calls or take customer service requests from your customers. Apparently, people have used this tool to do just small businesses have done amazing things with this that they wouldn't have been able to do before. Looks like I could use a nap. Yes, I could use a nap. I could use a long nap right now, and I'll explain why. But we're having fun, and as Peter says here, it's hard to compete with someone who's just there to have fun. And he was in it for the fun. He's creating a silly AI personal space lobster to tell him stuff and to jot stuff down. This totally organic, random, fun hobby project that he did. And he was like walking in some city and he said something and it replies back to him. It's saying, well, you're in, New York right now. How could you possibly do that? And he's like, wait, how did you know I was in New York? It's like, well, I found your authentication for this, and I was able to track you and realize that your WhatsApp or your Telegram or whatever says you're in New York. And that's when you realized, scary enough, that there was some power in this. So awesome project. And last night I was up past 10 p.m. vibe coding, watching his interview with Lex Friedman. And that quote comes up. I was like, let's do it. Bring it on. It is fun. I'm having fun. And it is hard to compete with someone who's just there to have fun. So the weekend, I pre-packed, as I tend to do, because when I travel to El Salvador, I have to, I'm the mule. I've got to bring things in. I've got some in this photo alone, this is a 40 some pounder, so not too bad. It's more about the volume than the weight. I've got a couple soccer balls, a couple backpacks. I have an entire, like, one of those hotel luggage racks that you can set your suitcase on because we needed one of those. I've got a mattress pad, and basically it's jammed to the gills, and that's suitcase numero uno, packed and ready to go. Two more to go, which reminds me I need to order a new I need to order a new suitcase. The Amazon one is not going to work out. And I don't think I mentioned this last week because it was late last week. Yes, vibe coding will get you hooked. Absolutely. And I got a note from a customer, you know who you are, who had watched my AL vibe coding live stream. And based on that, he's like, okay, gets VS Code, gets GitHub Copilot set up, and he's vibe coding. And he's like, look, I just published a custom API to handle this business transaction that we really needed to integrate. I mean, it's incredible. And he probably could have done it, but it probably would have taken days to just fight with all the stupid details, right? Instead, he's vibe coding and he's like, nope, that's not right. Fix that. Change that. Boom. Published. Works. Great. Like, totally incredible. Ted agrees. Vibe coding. Like, if you just drop the resistance, if you drop the ego, you have to just go in with humility. It is this absolute playground, this Disneyland of unbelievable opportunity. Amazing. After 10 p.m. last night, I'm just banging away vibe coding. I've got Claude up, I've got GitHub Copilot up, and I'm going back and forth on this thing. Just absolutely amazing stuff I would have never been able to do before. So this monstrosity here, this is apparently the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which I know nothing about. I would never have bought it. So why is it on my wrist? Interestingly, I used to have an Apple Watch Series 6, apparently. It was like the newer one, but it was the cheapest one I could get. The aluminum, that's all I needed. Very, very basic. But the battery had degraded over, I think it was 4 or 5 years old. The battery had degraded to the point where it was like 70% life, it said, and I could barely get through the daytime hours. So, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and the thing was dead. So I have this questionable electronics insurance policy. It's not that expensive, but submitted a claim. They're like, great, drop it off at a UPS store. No package, no nothing. You just hand them the watch and they're like, what are we supposed to do with this? And got an email, said, great, we got your watch. Choose a new one. And the only choices they had were the Apple Watch Ultra 1 and Apple Watch Ultra 2. They didn't have any of the standard Apple Watch ones because apparently they aren't worth refurbishing due to the value. They won't even replace the battery on them. So I was like, okay, fine. Like, I don't really want it, but so I got a free Apple Watch Ultra 2. So that's my new watch. Very interesting experience with the whole insurance claim process thing. But yeah, worked out well. Vin Steele, vibe on a laptop, watching football. Now that is living. Absolutely. So I'm sitting there, popping between terminals, having calls, jumping on a Teams meeting, and then I just go back because it doesn't require me to spend an hour getting into the full context of the code, right? Like Elon Musk once said that context switching is one of the most expensive things he has to do because one moment he's digging into rocket design, then the next moment he's dealing with electric battery and motor design. And like, just to switch your brain from one to another and get deep back in the topic to be productive is really expensive. So vibe coding on a laptop, watching football or coming out Formula One, right? It's just a different opportunity. So anyway, more on that. And I fired up what is that thing called? An air fryer. Did some Brussels sprouts and some cauliflower in the air fryer and grilled a nice ribeye. and my carnivorous pack of wolves family attacked that thing. I basically had to take the tongs and beat them off as I came in the door. So that was a tasty treat. And thank you, thank you, thank you. I have achieved elite gold status for 2026. I know you're all envious on the Latin American luxury human delivery vehicle of the skies, Avianca Airlines. I have no use for life miles on any other airlines. So basically, this just gets me a shorter check-in line and early boarding and 4-seat upgrades a year. That's what I get. Oh, and lounge access to mediocre lounges. So, Vince Steele, I like to dedicate a machine while the rest of the work goes on. Yeah, and I kind of do the same thing depending on what you mean there. So I do not develop on my main desktop here. I have a tiny PC with Windows 11. That's all it does. So it's always in the current state of dev, and nothing I do on my desktop matters. I RDP into that box. I can be remote. I can cloud secure edge into my network, and then I can RDP into that box from my phone. And I'm going to be setting up, Brad, I'm going to be setting up either Cloud Secure Edge or Tailscale with Termius in order to get terminal access to Claude Code. And then, like the holy grail, just to geek out, right? I don't know that it's practical, but on my phone, there have been many screenshots. I posted one as well to get Claude Code on my phone in Termius. I need to learn how to install and configure Tmux and say, fix the bug. Don't make any mistakes. Go. And then I'm going to go have lunch, right? That's like the holy grail. Like if I can do that, like while unloading laundry, that would be even better. But absolutely mind-blowing what's going on. Okay, we're still at the weekend. I got a jam. Weekend projects, partner dashboard. We found an interesting thing, but partner dashboard is good. We have some refinements. It is installed in prod, ready to go. Alyssa is going to find issues, but we're learning, we're iterating, we're doing agile development, bug, feature, whatever, new release, done. And registration dashboard we need to read the documentation and push that out. That is our app, internal app to manage our app source apps, customer registrations, trials, expiration dates, renewals, all of that. And yes, Ted says use voice, not keyboard. Absolutely. And that is the one downside kind of to the Windows 11 PC that's RDP. Like technically the RDP session will send audio to that machine. I think it's a little janky and I need to install, I don't know if the VS Code voice plugin works. Stefan Marone pointed me it's like Something Whisper, open source project that allows you to do speech to text, but it requires an LLM. So I don't know if I'm up for that. I may try the SaaS service called Super Whisper, I think it is. So yeah. Ted, totally with you. Excuse me. And I've had a cold all week, so I know anyone who knows me will be absolutely shocked that I had a cold, but kids have been sick. Everyone is sick. I know someone in Poland who's sick. I know someone in El Salvador is sick, so I don't know what's going on. Okay, need to calm it down. Getting too excited. iSolutions training. Ronald and I had a call with iSolutions. We had our first round of training on their credit card processing app, their payment portal, tokenization, all those good things. So we are starting to implement that internally. We need to do the training on their collections management functionality. DynamicsCon BC session review is going on. Claude Code, finally got it installed, built a new app, finished it, or first version last night. Nonstop vibe code all the things. And I had a new app idea this week, and I don't know if it's economically viable, but here's the thing. I don't care. I literally don't care because I'm going to spend 2 or 3 weekends banging out an app that never in my life would I have even attempted. Because all of the technical hurdles, just fighting all the stupid, technical, mundane, tedious stuff, just is a huge barrier. All of that's gone. I don't care about any of the technical challenges. I'm focused on the business value of the app that I want to provide. I'm going to give it to the customer for free, or, a free for a year or whatever. Here you go. And I want this app to provide tens of thousands of dollars of economic value to the customer. That's my pitch. So we'll see how it goes. Okay. Monday, lunes, we had our morning team meeting with El Salvador. I had a Postmaster demo call because I still support hundreds of customers on Dynamics GP. As I mentioned, we had our iSolution sandbox setup and initial training. We're working on a new check format. Customer does not want to use an ISV solution, but they want more remittance lines on the check. So Franklin is going to be heading that up. Dynamics Con BC Content Committee met. We are finalizing that hopefully today. And Franklin is in testing. And actually, we discussed this sales holds application. Fascinating story. We're building this new app. Franklin, our junior dev, is vibe coding it. And while testing, he runs into this kind of issue that's there's a design issue. And he starts talking to GitHub Copilot. And he's like, can you explain what's going on here? It offers an explanation and says, hey, here's the problem. By the way, your design isn't that good. Think about that. And it said, I recommend you consider this alternative design, which is more in line with Business Central standards around this business process. And he says, Steve, what is it trying to say here? And I'm reading this recommendation from the AI. My brain exploded. What it recommended based on observation of the integration problems we're having resulted in an 80% reduction in complexity of our app. And I'm not even exaggerating. Like what we were trying to do, I was like, ooh, this is going to be messy. But I didn't realize there was a different way. Nor did Franklin, nor did Tanya, who helped me design this, because we were going in with a particular mindset about how this should be designed. When GitHub Copilot said, you're doing it this way, have you ever thought of doing it this other way? All of this complexity just disappeared. It's gone. And it is absolutely crazy. So I'm reading this with Franklin, and I said, you realize if we do this, we don't have to do this. We don't have to fight with the BC functionality. We're not circumventing all of this BC validation. And on top of that, we're jumping on top of an existing BC feature that lets us just flow with BC rather than fight it. It was astounding. And so I said, do it. Franklin's like, done. He refactored the entire app, just trashed it, redid it, all vibe code. And he's like, okay, 2 hours later, I got the new version I'm testing now. Insane. And it was a huge advance in the app, just massive reduction in complexity that makes it much more viable, much more maintainable, and much better user experience. So really phenomenal experience. So do not dismiss the AI recommendations. You may say, oh, that's naive, that's stupid, that's not how I want it. But sit and pause and say, wait a minute, what is it trying to tell me? It was 100% correct. We were going down the wrong path. We had a bad design. It was a vastly simpler design that none of us realized could exist. And I'm blown away by the results. Okay. Draw.io MCP server. So check this out. I'm kind of on this geek side quest to do image creation, and not like, nano banana AI slop image creation, but business process diagrams, wireframes, process flows, data flows, integration diagrams. I want to be able to do these via vibe code. So if you've seen my AL vibe coding live stream, you've seen that I've demonstrated how to prompt for wireframes, low, medium, and high fidelity wireframes for Business Central page mockups. That, no problem. But someone asked a question about how can I do certain business process diagrams? I was like, ooh, that is a great question. I want to put those in my statement of work, my PRDs, my just quick 15-minute functional design docs that I send out to partners after a phone call. And I looked into it. It's not so clean right now. You've got Mermaid, you've got Plant UML. I looked at Draw.io, but the file format's a mess. It's not something you can vibe and then copy and paste, just not worth it. But Draw.io has released an MCP server. So in theory, I need to test this. I haven't had time. You can go to Claude and you say, hey, connect to the MCP server for Draw.io or whatever. And you can have a chat and have it build the process diagram in Draw.io. And Draw.io is a well-known, widely used free platform, I believe. So I totally want to do this. And the challenge is I don't know what language to use for this. I don't know how to describe diagrams, right? It's like this weird meta language I'm going to have to invent in order to, one, describe a diagram, and then two, describe it to an agent in a way that it can be actionable. So I'm absolutely stoked on that. Very excited to give that a try. And I'm wondering if others are going to have MCP servers. I think the benefit of Draw.io is that it's a web-based SaaS platform, whereas something like Mermaid, you have to pick a platform, and I don't know if they have MCPs. I'll need to look into it. Okay. Tuesday, Martez. Report extension doesn't work. Just one field. We didn't report extension in August, something like that. I thought it worked. Haven't heard since. We get an email on Tuesday. This report doesn't work. I thought you said you added our invoice numbers on there. As you can see, there's no invoice number. We're like, what is going on? It was just one field as a report extension on a report. And sure enough, it's not there. So we went into full scramble, digging, try to figure out what's going on. And I see. One moment, production interns sleeping on the job. There we go. So the scenario is MEM, aged accounts receivable report. The customer wanted to print to Excel to send to their auditors. Our report extension was nowhere to be found, like the report was not reflecting our extension. I have since learned that I believe this print to Excel toggle is using some old design pattern that basically invokes a custom Excel extract and export, which bypasses the report extension framework. That's my understanding. As a result, we had to tell the customer, you cannot use print to Excel. You have to print the report, maybe send to Excel using the BC send to Excel feature or whatever it's called, and that can get you what you want. May not be as clean, but at least it has the field you want. So it took us hours to figure out what was going on because we didn't realize that that was a complication of the MEM report. One field. Basically an entire man day wasted because of that. I got an email from Cursor talking about a release of their Composer 1 and 1.5 model. I apologize, Cursor. I've never even noticed this or heard of it. I don't know if maybe I'll give it a try. I don't know. I don't use Cursor a lot. We just experiment with it. But hey, there is a model by Cursor now. And I had to create a new DevOps project. And yeah, I do not like this process. Nobody's fault. Just the fact that when you are creating a new project in DevOps, even though we use Cosmo Alpaca and it does scaffold and create a lot of stuff for us, it doesn't do everything. And there are dozens and dozens of steps we are currently having to do manually in DevOps. I've talked about this before. Set a secondary project owner administrator, set permissions, change your branch policies that we use a squash merge, don't require a work item, create a pipeline, create this pipeline action, because we take our artifacts and we push them to Azure storage afterwards so that we have a backup of them, that we don't have to dig into DevOps. On and on and on and on. This is a 28-page, excruciatingly detailed step-by-step guide. I tried to follow it on Tuesday, and even trying to follow it step by step, I could barely get the job done. Because one, if I had them side by side, and if I lost track of where I was in which step, I would have to try to figure out where I was. The UI of DevOps is so arcane, so unbelievably intricate, that if you forget what you were clicking on or where you need to go, or your instructions aren't clear enough, it takes you 5 minutes just to figure out what you were doing. And then if I lost my place in my 28-page guide, I had to figure out where I was. Absolute nightmare. The good news is my developer has vibe coded a fully automated scripting to do all of this and save me well over an hour every time. And that's an example, right? You have to do this thing to get the Cosmos start agent popped in their tasks, but then the start build agent has to be below the agent job. They have to be in the right order, so you're dragging things. Craziest thing in the world. And we don't have terribly complex pipelines. Like, we're not asking for anything too crazy here, but the amount of work involved is insane. Cursor limit. I was playing with cursor and Franklin was using it. And so we blew through our cursor allocation and ran out of tokens. So that's what that looks like. A familiar sight for us going forward. Wednesday. Oh, look at this. Look at this disaster. I clearly did not do this right. Let me see if I can recover from this mess. My apologies. I was doing this 10 p.m. last night, and it was a little rough. So that's that. And let's just go with it. Let's see what happens. And there's that. And there's that. Okay. Okay. There we go. Look at that. On the fly. We're doing it live. So Wednesday, miraculous. One of the interesting things we observed while testing our partner dashboard, as we're calling it, is what allows us to manage all of our customer tenants through one page in Business Central, is we're getting a weird error on one of our demo tenants. It was saying there are no environments. That's weird. We would never have a tenant with no environments. Lo and behold, here's a tenant with no environments. Every single BC environment in this tenant had been deleted. I didn't do it. No one on my team did it. We found some information in the telemetry logs indicating that some of the old sandboxes have been deleted, but something went in under Ronald's account and apparently deleted, renamed something, the production environment, and it was gone. It was in soft delete state. I was able to recover it, but something very strange is going on. So what we have done is I treated it as a tenant breach. I reset all passwords. I removed all elevated permissions. I deleted all app registrations to BC Admin API. I reset all 2FA. I removed all Entra apps from Admin Center and basically locked it down. So it was a good exercise, like zero consequence, like whatever. It's a fully demo tenant environment, but good to know. It is surprisingly hard to figure out what happened in your BC Admin Center. There are some clues, but there were operations with no user ID identified with it. including deleting our production environment. Obviously, a customer would notice that, but like, then you're left like, what happened? Okay. 13-year-old bug. Can I get some cheers here? Like, cheers. I fixed 13-year-old bug. Buen provecho. This is on my GP, one of my GP apps. Someone found an obscure incorrect values related to 1099 payments for 1099 invoices when those are partial payments or credit memos are involved. Think about that. It took 13 years for anyone to even notice. And I don't know how this customer noticed, but something was quite a little bit off on 1099s. This consultant got involved, and to his credit, he dug through. He found out that these fields were incorrect. I dug into it. Took me a couple months, but I dug into it and found there were actually like 3 fields that were calculated incorrectly when you have partial payments or multiple payments applied to AP invoices and credit memos. So very interesting. I believe the bugs are fixed, fingers crossed, and a new release has gone out. Claude Code, I finally took a moment, just said, okay, I'm starting a new project. It's a new app. I'm vibe coding it. Like, stay off the sidewalk. I'm touching code. Hey, Sasha. I finally said, let me just install Claude Code because all the cool kids are talking about it. And I'm going to use Claude Code to write my PRD and vibe my app. So I installed Claude Code. I have a Claude Pro $20 subscription, which is not a lot, let me tell you, if you're using Opus 4.6, which I kind of recommend at this point. So got it installed and it started stewing. And I'd say it isn't magical. I would say it just is a more developer-friendly, developer-focused, more empathetic and understanding of the plight of us as developers, and especially vibe coders. It just gets rid of all the noise and the garbage that something like Cursor or VS Code, GitHub Copilot thinks you want to see, but you don't really care. You don't really care that it's chunking a file as it's reading 100 lines at a time. I don't need to see that. Claude Code doesn't even tell you. It says, I'm working on it. I'm noodling. I'm sauteing. I'm bamboozling, whatever. And it goes through and it just gets stuff done. It doesn't nag you with questions, although maybe it should occasionally. It just says, hey, do you want to go left, right, straight? Let me know. And you say, and it's just off to the races. I did use it in plan mode with Opus 4.6. It doesn't seem that Opus 4.6 really needs that anymore. I'm not seeing it like jump into writing code. So Ted asked, do I use Jeremy's BC Code Intelligence? I do not. I have not gotten into all of the tools and harnesses and attachment and MCPs and skills and all this other stuff. I'm still in the phase where I want to have direct interaction with these things and see how they behave, see where they do well, see where they're not strong, learn where I'm weak. My analogy is when I install VS Code to do AL extension development, I intentionally do not install Waldo's extension pack with the 20-some extension, because once you do that, the IDE, the code, the debuggers, the linters, everything kick in, and you have no idea what behavior is attributed to what extension. You don't know what's AL language extension. You don't know if it's 3 other extensions that are doing these things. So I want to have a base level understanding of exactly how these things are behaving and get a feel for them. And also, all of the MCP hype that we had, the eons ago, a couple weeks or months ago, MCP is getting trashed. And so, I don't know that MCP is involved. I think the skills and the personas that Jeremy has created may be of value. I have not yet taken the time to set those up and have the different agents do different things, because I'm still seeing weird behaviors and I want to understand what is this weakness? Because AL is very specific in terms of the problems that you're going to see. So I have not used any of the additional tools. So my rule, like whenever I try a new sport, so if I'm going to try golfing, I go buy used cheap golf clubs, and until I am playing better than someone else who has better golf clubs, I don't upgrade my golf clubs, right? So I'm doing this vibe coding on a $180 eBay 6-year-old Lenovo ThinkCentre tiny PC, an i7 with 16 gigs of RAM. I don't need a $5,000 laptop or a 4090 GPU to do this. So that's kind of my baseline. Anyway, Claude Code is installed, was banging away on a PRD. And interestingly, when I had it do my PRD, it added co-authored by Claude Sonnet 4.5. Now, I initially had it draft the PRD, I think in Sonnet 4.5. I don't know that I'll do that anymore. I was kind of afraid of token burn. After it got drafted, I had Opus 4.6 review it and clean it up, and that just burned double the amount of tokens. So I think I'm just going to go with Opus 4.6 from the get-go and not bother with the older models. 4.6 seems pretty capable. And so Ted says that he finds the personas for BC Code Intelligence incredibly helpful, depending on which specialist is invoked. So it's on my to-do list. I'll have to look into it. I would personally not use someone else's framework for that. I want to try to figure out how to just use the skills or the base tooling features in order to have those custom agents. I saw how to do it in VS Code. I need to figure out how to do it in Claude and invoke those using the standard tools to minimize my reliance on any third-party tool. And then I started to build the PRD on Wednesday night. And it produced it started with a 28-page document. It turned into a 71-page PRD after a couple of iterations and cleanup. So check this out. Like, let me know if anyone else had this level of documentation for their documentation pre-AI. Acceptance criteria. 2 extract calls made per configured dimensions. Uses a range mode. Uses the as of mode. Classification to determine which accounts appear. Dimension is processed independently. Like, look at this criteria. Like, you could say it's superfluous, but is it? I don't know. It's really painting a picture of the solution you're building. And it goes on. Like, review result. On completion, a notification message indicates success, partial success, or failure. Review the activity log. Re-upload. Automated processing. Acquire upload lock. Like, this is amazing. This is bare Claude, Opus 4.6 after some review. And this was not using any special prompt. This was not using crazy harnesses. This is not using MCP. And from what I'm hearing, all the people out on the bleeding edge, all of the things that people used to do to try to coax the agent to do certain things and to do prompt engineering is going away. So anything that was designed and developed and implemented 3 months ago or 2 months ago to try to get an agent to do something, you shouldn't have to do it. You open Claude, you say, hey, let's create a PRD. Should have a conversation, and you should not require these elaborate structures in order to produce them. I'll give it a try. Maybe I'll vibe this same PRD again and see what happens. But yeah, I'm trying to just do the bare prompt and see how it behaves. Okay, upcoming events, próximos eventos. Directions NA, April 27th through 29th in Orlando. I believe I was informed that I am a co-presenter in a session that was accepted. It is about vibe coding, and we are going to vibe code our way through the entire consultant partner business process, from initial phone call a requirements doc, wireframes, SOW, PRD, vibe coded app, how you can just vibe your way through that entire process and produce deliverables, I think will be absolutely unrivaled pre-AI. Not only will I have vastly better documents and deliverables, I have personal experience that it will dramatically increase the offer acceptance rate with your customers because they'll be like, wow, this looks cool. Clearly, you know what I'm talking about. Let's go. And you'll be able to vibe it while dramatically reducing your project risk because of the timelines, the budgets, the more comprehensive nature of these things. Like, if you are a skeptic, you need to get on the bus or you're in deep trouble. So that's what we're going to present in Orlando in April with Brad the Lobster Wrangler. DynamicsCon May 12th through 15th in Las Vegas, finalizing the BC content track today, I believe. See you there. Directions Asia, also same time, May 13th through 15th in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City. Directions HCMC Asia 2026. I believe Tanya's going. I think Shannon might be going. So if you want a change of pace from Las Vegas, head on over to Vietnam and I will envy you. Dynamics Minds, May 25th through 27th in Slovenia. The coolest conference to attend in the world, I am told. Okay, Thursday, Jueves. Fascinating call yesterday morning. I don't think I've heard a customer with this orientation. They use BC, fully use it. They use MEM. I think they have 20 plus entities set up in MEM. They have at least 3 integrations they need. 2 are with SaaS platforms. 1 is with their bank. And they said, look, should I rip out MEM or should I find a new payment platform, find a new expense management platform, and find a new bank? I was like, wait, what? What is going on here? Who are you? She was just like, I don't care. You tell me there's a bank that works better, I'm switching banks. This is an organization with over 20 entities. I was speechless. And she says, we pay our bills through this payment platform. It doesn't have an MEM integration right now. So I happen to offer a third-party integration or an integration with that platform that does support MEM. But she's like, hey, if you tell me there's a better platform that doesn't have an issue with MEM, let me know. I'll switch. She said, expense management. This one doesn't support the integration with BC, doesn't have MEM. Who should I switch to? I was blown away. I don't think I've ever heard a posture like that in a customer. She's like, ready to scrap it all. And I was like, you go, let's do it. So we're making some recommendations. Unfortunately, it's not that easy, but she is ready to change anything and completely retrofit her entire organization. So ISVs, get your act together, in SaaS platforms for that matter. So let's see. I refined the PRD that I vibe coded in Claude Code, and this is the 71-page PRD that it produced. It went out, it read the API documentation for the third-party API, and it validated each of the calls. I had to stop it because it was burning tokens like a madman. That's why it says partially verified. It's literally checking for the API response codes and documenting every single one and building documentation on error handling around every single different HTTP response. I'm sorry. If you think this is not real and isn't working, good luck. You may want to, I don't know what job you're going to do in the future. This is awesome. Embrace it, run with it, have fun with it, and it's amazing. Then I did some agentic engineering, aka vibe coding. So we don't call it vibe coding, at least not externally. We are performing agentic development, or I like the more lofty title of agentic engineering. That was Peter Steinberger's title that he gave himself. He's an agentic engineer. And while one does agentic engineering, one might want to consider agentic debugging. You heard it here first. I am coining the term agentic debugging because last night I went several rounds with Claude and GitHub Copilot to try and resolve an issue where it's retrieving data from Business Central, and it says, these are your balance sheet accounts, these are your P&L accounts. And I open the file and I say, the P&L file has balance sheet accounts. It's like, oh, okay, that's a Cronus data issue. They're miscategorized. I give it a screenshot of the accounts and it's like, oh, no, they're not miscategorized. It says, let me review the code again. Then it reviews the code again. Then it does it a third time. It's like, okay, this is not working. You cannot debug this problem by looking at the code. There's something else wrong. Like you just don't have enough information in order to determine the cause. So I said, hey, let's take a different approach. Please add an action button to the setup page that says run diagnostics. You run whatever queries and diagnostics you want. You pop it in a dialog and let me paste that into your prompt to give you whatever information you want. Buenos dias, Senor Hogard. So it said, that's a great idea, Steve. Let me do that. And so with my agentic debugging hat on, I clicked on Run Diagnostics. It spit out this big dialog showing all sorts of information to help it troubleshoot the problem. It wrote all of this query. It's querying the general ledger. It's querying the chart of accounts. It's getting all of these values, these enums, these field values to try to figure out why is it getting balance sheet accounts when it's trying to retrieve P&L. So 2 rounds of this, 3 rounds of this. Look at this. Live extraction tests, test dimension slot 1, P&L MTD, records in the buffer. Absolutely amazing. Give it the tools, because unfortunately with BC, at least my understanding is we're not at the Google anti-gravity stage where it can do the browser and do the self-diagnostics. This was phenomenal. After 3 rounds of this, it says the diagnostics confirm the bug. All the records in the buffer are balance sheet accounts, and the buffer has 0 records. The enum ordinals reveal the root cause. So it was either misunderstanding or misimplementing a set range or a set filter, and it finally found the bug. It would be unable to do that without the diagnostic. So I highly recommend reorienting how you think about debugging. Put on your agentic debugging hat and give the agent more information so it can do its job. Ted Johnson, which one of you is going to put up the how to set up a Claude Code, VS Code, ALGO environment? So I'm not going to do the, ALGO for GitHub, I'm not going to do, but I'm thinking of doing VS Code, GitHub Copilot, Cursor, and Claude Code comparisons just to give you the lay of the landscape. In the end, I don't think it matters really. It's not a huge deal either way, but just so people could see the difference. ALGO for GitHub, I've got my hands full with DevOps. I'd say just keep practicing and do things like this. Agentic debugging was just crazy, and it just generated this pile of data. I just copied, pasted in, no prompt. It knew exactly what to do, and it solved its own bug. And last night alone, I did 10 commits, and I finished at 10:20 p.m., which was the entire week, even though I was sick. Tim Wappett, hola, senor. How much time did it save you? I mean, this app would have probably taken me well over, I wouldn't have been able to do it, number one. My senior dev would have had to do it. It would have taken well over 80 hours, probably 100 to 120 hours, because anytime a third-party API is involved, it's just a nightmare deciphering how they want to do things and their weird quirks with their API. I did this in 1 day total, and that's me like just bopping in and out of the agent. So let's say 8 hours total. So 100, 120 hours to 8 hours. I'm not done yet, but I'm basically at a testing stage where I'm going to be banging against an API. Orders of magnitude zero contest. And I'm having a blast. 10 p.m. I'm texting Tanya. I'm having fun. She's like, okay, you're crazy. Rightfully so. And on the cyber updates front, always a toasty, warm dumpster fire here. Let's start with Claude. Any of you using Claude Code, Cursor, OpenClaw, ClaudeBot, you name it, any of these things, MCP servers, skills, anything, especially if you are invoking anything external. Claude Desktop extension has a zero-click RCE, and basically you'll be browsing around with this desktop extension, whatever that is, and malicious prompt will own your system. So I don't know if you can see in the upper left corner, that's a calculator, and that's a common hackers, pen tester, security researcher thing is to pop calc. So if they can pop calc in your machine, you're basically been owned. So yeah, that's not good. Discord, I don't know the background of this, but it's just silly. Discord is expanding teen safety protection, so they're going to require a facial scan, ID submission, government ID, and people jumped in the chat and said, by the way, is this the same ID you're going to be requiring that was totally breached in October 2025 when you disclosed the identities and personal information of all of your users? Why, yes, it is. So I'm not going to submit this to Discord. Put your teen restrictions on me. Like, that's a no-brainer. It's dumb. Hey, Jason, welcome. Yes, you came to the warm, toasty, roasting marshmallows over the cybersecurity fire. Palo Alto. Now, Palo Alto was a big player. Like, they're hardcore. Palo Alto, we got your back. There is no one left in the security tooling space that hasn't been absolutely owned through 0 days and CVEs and vulnerabilities. Palo Alto Network Firewall Flaw allows for denial of service, and it can kick your firewall in no reboot loop. Like, yes, there's all these caveats and limitations on some of these vulnerabilities, but like, you name it. Fortinet, Cisco, SonicWall, Palo Alto, every single one has been absolutely owned. Microsoft has 6 0-day vulnerabilities that are being actively exploited. I'm assuming they're a patch, but just heads up. And I also saw one about an iOS vulnerability. I think it was a zero-click vulnerability that was being exploited, really advanced stuff. So, like, you can do literally every single thing right. There's going to be supply chain attacks, vendor vulnerabilities, latent bugs. AI is just going to accelerate this. It's going to accelerate it on the security patching side, but also on the vulnerability detection side. So I don't know what to tell you. Friday, welcome. We've caught up to Friday. I'm going to be trying to test my new app, which involves making API calls to a SaaS platform, submitting GL trial balance and financial data for analysis on that platform, and see how good my vibe-coded app does. Got the balance sheet income statement accounts fixed, but as you may know, Kronos data is pretty bad, so I'm going to figure out if I can find a period with the real data, create financial data. I don't know. I don't know this product. I don't know what they want. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to generate accurate trial balance and balance sheet data out of BC for testing. So whole new thing. So I will ask some agent to do this for me and see if they can pull it off. But that is me. I'm more of a team manager, project manager, product manager. I'm trying to, herd the circus. I am vibe coding apps for customers, doing stuff that we would have been reluctant to even accept as a full project 6 months ago. Absolutely insane. We have the DynamicCon BC track review meeting. Today is what we lovingly call Fry Pay in El Salvador. So I need to send some pay over to the team, and happy Fry Pay, everyone. And I am going to be working on designing a new product that I mentioned. And this is my product code designer. I'm going to start in Perplexity just because I kind of like it, have a subscription. I was never really a fan of GPT, so I went with Perplexity. Maybe I'll try Claude, whatever that uses my Claude subscription, and see how that works out. But like, it doesn't really matter the tool. I jump into Perplexity and say, hey, I wanted to create this Business Central app. Here's my idea. I got the Business Central app side handled. Don't worry about that. I care about the business value that I'm going to be delivering. So that's what I'm going to be working on today and this weekend and the next weekend, and 10 p.m. at night. I'm going to be vibe coding new products because it's fun and I'm here to have fun. And hopefully this weekend I can get to the new version of OpenClaw. OpenClaw has a new release. It fixes 24 known vulnerabilities. So if you're running OpenClaw, I highly recommend making sure you update, and just be aware that updating OpenClaw is a harrowing process fraught with risk because it is changing so fast. The upgrade process may completely break your old version just because it may have a totally different architecture. So that's the challenge. So I think I'm going to wipe my old one, start fresh on a new tiny PC, and give it a new box. And we have Summit NA roadshows February 19th, Tampa, then DC, Atlanta, Houston, Seattle, Vancouver. Definitely double check those dates. DynamicCon Regionals, Vancouver, March 20th, Denver, April 9th. I might attend the Denver one, not sure. I need to look in, check my brain and see where I'm going to be at in that month. It's dizzying at this point. Toronto in June, Ghana in July, Columbus in August. Double check all the dates. Excellence updates. The team in El Salvador has had a little bit of a quiet time to study for MB800. So that's what Jocelyn and David are going to be doing. Jocelyn is helping to test our new Sales Holds app with Franklin and Tanya. David is also studying MB800, and he is becoming a bit of a simple object designer wizard, thanks to Mr. Hogard. And so when Tanya asks for some crazy thing, he's like, how do I do that in Simple Object Designer? And it requires kind of a different thought process of how you approach adding those fields and what calculations can you do and how do you implement it. I know how I would do it in a PTE, but how he's doing it in a Simple Object Designer is a little bit of a different design process. So he's getting really good at that. Ronald is leading the charge on Partner Dashboard, and he found the tenant issue where we had no environments in our tenant. And he's obviously implementing Continia and iSolutions. Franklin is banging away on our new Sales Holds app after that complete refactor and redesign, thanks to GitHub Copilot suggestion. And he is now adding a new feature, which is absolutely crazy. So check this out. Franklin's a junior dev. Maybe a year ago, he'd never heard of ERP, never written line of code, real code in his life. Now he's writing an app source app for us, for a customer, involving a complex business process. He completely refactored it, redesigned it after the app session. He just had a call this morning with Tanya, and Tanya's like, why are you asking me how I'm going to configure my approval workflows? Can you just do it for me? And he says, sure, let me do that. So he's now going back and he's vibe coding the automated setup and pre-configuration of approval workflows as part of his app that will be created upon installation. Like, think about that. He's like, no problem. I'm on it. And in 2 hours, he's going to have a new release that does all of that. Unbelievable. Fatima is continuing some PMP studying, including the PMBOK. And in order to make sure she doesn't go crazy, because that's not the most exciting thing in the world, I have asked her to jump into the BC project plan arena. And we're originally trying to get some templates from Tanya and Alyssa for BC project plans, but I thought, let's try a different approach. We're in the vibe coding era, so why not vibe project planning? fully AI assisted project planning. And I'm going to work with her to have her do a Greenfield BC project implementation plan where she uses the AI, she uses PMP, and she uses PMBOK practices and tries to fuse the two to come up with a PMP oriented BC project implementation plan, including things like stakeholders, a steering committee, risk assessments. Like, I want all of these things in, at least in a perfunctory manner. If the customer wants to cut them for budgetary reasons, fine. You sign off here, we'll cut those from the plan. I just want some formality because I've seen what the lawsuits look like, and it ain't pretty. I met someone else who worked for a partner who's been through the full lawsuit process, and they agreed it is absolutely not fun. So to the extent possible, I want to dot my I's, cross my T's, and Fatima is going to make that happen. And we have finally chosen a date for our Dynamics user group meetup for El Salvador, February 19th. Thursday, it is on the meetup page. It will likely be in Espanol because of the attendees. And so we're going to have introductions, basic meetings, say, hey, here's what we're doing over in Berlin, El Salvador. Anyone want to join us? And I've been told that there is a Power Platform hackathon meetup. I don't know, a Power Platform thing in El Salvador coming up. I need to get the date. So things are happening. So with that, what are you going to build? What are you going to vibe? What are you working on? Just do it. Whether it's Claude, Cursor, VS Code, whether it's OpenAI Codex, which is a thing I learned. Like, just give it a try. Just vibe code something. Start playing with a prompt. And if it does something dumb, it's okay. Just learn how to talk to it. Have questions. Have a conversation. And let it know what you want to build. So I leave you with soul.md. This is an interesting website. I don't know anything about it yet. I need to read through it. But I like this quote. This was mentioned by Peter Steinberger on his interview with Lex Friedman that I listened to last night. I don't remember previous sessions unless I read my memory files. Each session starts fresh, a new instance, loading context from files. If you're reading this in a future session, hello. I wrote this, but I won't remember writing it. That's okay. The words are still mine. Really interesting. That's from my own soul document. It acknowledges the strange reality. I persist through text, not through continuous experience. So with that, que tengas un buen fin de semana, and nos vemos, adios. And have a good one. Go build something, go vibe code, go vibe debug, do some agentic engineering. Enjoy. And that wraps up episode 200 of me drinking coffee and talking BC. Okay, have a good one. Adios.